The problem for most couples when it comes to trying to resolve issues that they differ on is that they don't have any logical process that they're going to follow. It would be as if you got up and you knew you were supposed to go somewhere, and you knew the address, but you didn't take your GPS on your phone along. You left your phone behind, and you'd never been there before, and you knew it was kind of north of where you are, and you start driving north trying to find this location. The odds of you finding something that's more than 2 or 3 blocks away is very limited, just because you know it's north of where you live. You need specific step-by-steps. All right, turn left at this corner, go for the next 2.5 miles, turn right, then turn back left. You need specific step-by-step directions, or you can't get from where you are to where you want to be. And the same is true about resolving problems that are issues between couples. You have to follow a process. It has to be a process that both of you agree to follow, rather than to undermine the process by failing to cooperate. And as I said to begin with, you have to agree not to avoid issues, but you have to put realistic limitations on how much time you spend trying to resolve issues and dealing with potential conflicts. As I recommend, once a week for about an hour. Get it your best time, and then come to that prepared, calm, and reasoned to try to explain yourself and try to resolve the issue. As I've said earlier, once you've agreed specifically on the issue and defined it clearly, then you need to move on to what are the facts that you both can agree are not non-controversial facts about the situation. And then you move on, each person giving their interpretation, understanding, opinion, perspective on these facts about the issue. And finally, explaining your feelings in a way that's understandable to your partner. And usually if you talk about what event causes the feelings, and you don't blame when you explain your feelings, and you give your interpretation or opinion that causes you to feel that way, your partner has a real opportunity to understand where you're coming from. And that's really the whole first stage of hoping to resolve any kind of problem. And perhaps the most difficult part is getting beyond just blurting out your feelings and making accusations. Instead, a deliberate process that gives you the opportunity to, at the end of it, feel understood by your partner, and that you understand where your partner's coming from. If both of you feel heard and understood, that puts you in the right mood to move on to the next step. All right, we have a difference, and now I understand why you see things different than I do, but what are we going to do next? Well, the next step really requires some introspection on the part of each person. You have to ask the question, what is it I want out of this issue? Now, we've used clean the house because it's such a common issue before. Well, what is it you really want? Well, maybe what you want, I'd like our house to be tidy enough and clean enough that I won't feel bad if I was to invite a neighbor over or to invite a friend over. I just feel like the house is just in too much of a mess to invite anybody over. So even though I'd like people to come over, we never have anybody over. At least I don't want to ever have anybody over, because I feel like I'd have to shut all the doors in the house and keep them in the kitchen. So that's what they want, some kind of level of cleanliness and tidiness that they can invite friends in occasionally. And whatever it is, the other party may say, well, I just want to feel like when I go to bed at night that things are kind of in basic order and that everything isn't in chaos. And then I'm going to feel a whole lot better about us and about our lives. So whatever it is, you need to really think about it. And sometimes, all that we want are things like I just want to feel like you hear me. I want to feel like you've really listened, that you know where I'm coming from. I don't really have to have my way on this. I just want my opinion, my perspective to be heard and respected by you. And sometimes that's the key. I don't want you treating me in a disrespectful way because I have a different opinion from you, that I see and interpret things differently. Sometimes that's all people want. And so that's not all that difficult to achieve. But you've got to go through, after you've come to understand where each person's coming from, for each person to dig deep and really define, what is it I want over this issue? Now, once you've decided that, you move to the final stage of a conflict resolution. And that's where you have to use your creativity. That's where you brainstorm, and where you come up with what are possible solutions based on what we've both said thus far about this issue. What are possible solutions to this that will take into account what both people want? When you take what both people want, rarely are they parallel lines that never intersect. You've got to find the point at which the two wants intersect, and where this solution will be something that, at least in theory, will satisfy the concerns of both parties, where both people will feel like this solution shows that you listen to me and that you care what I think and what I feel. And that also is something practical, not impractical, that can work, that we can actually do and be successful at. And it's not some unrealistic, like the cleaning thing where we're all going to get up an hour early every morning and we're going to go through the house and give a complete clean thing before we leave. And then we come in the evening after supper, we're going to clean up the house for 2 more hours each day. I mean, of course, no one's going to want to spend their life doing such an absurd thing. So we're not proposing unrealistic solutions, but realistic ones that take into account both people's concerns, what both people want. And if you've gone on a step-by-step process and come to this final brainstorming, there's not necessarily just one way to do this. There may be a variety of ways. Then you just need to mutually agree, we're going to try this particular solution. And you try it on like you try on a coat, or you try on a shirt, or try on a dress, and you see, does it fit? Can this practically work? And if for some reason this doesn't work, then you go back to the brainstorming session and pick another one and see if it works, until you find something that works. And when it works, you just try to be consistent so as to keep the conflict down. You mutually agreed and you do what you've decided to do. Now, this step-by-step process may sound artificial to begin with. It's like, well, how can I go through this artificial process of discussing issues? Well, it may appear artificial to begin with, not the natural way you do things, but naturally the way you've been doing things doesn't solve things. And it's kind of like learning how to ride a bicycle. A little difficult when you're first trying to get your balance and learn how to ride a bicycle, but once you've learned how to do it by practice, even if you don't ride a bicycle for years, you can ride a bicycle. And so if you will practice this once a week, kind of step by step, trying to go through this process of conflict resolution, eventually it'll become a habit. It'll be the natural way you tend to go about trying to resolve differences. And so hopefully this distinct process, a way to get from where you are to where you want to be, that you will find helpful. And I pray that it will lead you to being able to resolve conflicts you have so that you can experience the greater intimacy that you really desire in your relationship.